So we shall start from the chemical reactions taking place during fermentation of molasses. We start from sucrose C12H22O11. This is sucrose. It is hydrolyzed in presence of enzyme invertase. We get glucose and fructose. Both glucose and fructose are isomers. That is why they have the same molecular formula. So if this is glucose, this should be fructose. In the second step, we start from glucose or fructose, and reaction takes place in the presence of another enzyme, zymase. This glucose and fructose gets converted into ethanol. Along with that, we get carbon dioxide gas. I need to balance the equation. So 2 moles of C2H5OH and 2 moles of carbon dioxide. Whatever C2H5OH we have got is a 10% aqueous solution of ethanol, and this 10% aqueous solution of ethanol is called wash, or it is also called wort. This wash or wort is subjected to fractional distillation. The concentration of ethanol keeps on increasing, and at one stage the concentration increases to 95.5% by volume of ethanol, and this 95.5% by volume of ethanol is called as rectified spirit. By fractional distillation, we cannot further convert rectified spirit into absolute alcohol. In other words, the concentration of 95.5% by volume of ethanol cannot be increased to 100% ethanol by fractional distillation, because at this concentration, ethanol with water forms what is called azeotropic mixture or constant boiling mixture. So, what is a rectified spirit? Rectified spirit is 95.5% by volume of ethanol or ethyl alcohol. So, remaining 4.5% must be water. Now, this rectified spirit can be made unfit for drinking purposes by adding various substances like methanol. We know methanol is highly poisonous. We also add copper sulfate. Copper sulfate imparts color to the rectified spirit, and also we add small amount of pyridine, and this pyridine is a foul smelling liquid. and the resultant substance is what is called denatured alcohol. So, what is denatured alcohol? It is rectified spirit made unfit for drinking purposes by the addition of small amount of methanol, which is highly poisonous, copper sulfate, which imparts color, and pyridine, which is a foul smelling liquid. And this denatured alcohol is used as a commercial solvent. We have seen in case of fermentation of molasses, finally what we get is 10% aqueous solution of ethanol. We do not allow its concentration to increase above 14% during fermentation, because above 14% concentration, action of the enzyme zymase, which is used in step number 2, is inhibited. That's why during fermentation of molasses, we maintain the concentration of ethanol at 10%, which we call as wash or wort. And once we obtain it, thereafter we are separately subjecting it to fractional distillation. If you allow some air to get into this fermentation mixture, it so happens that whatever ethanol is formed will undergo air oxidation to form acetic acid. And this acetic acid imparts sour taste to the mixture. And because of this, this will spoil the taste of alcoholic beverages. We shall start from the other functional group, ethers. Here, first we start from methods of preparation. Under that, the first reaction we are going to consider is by dehydration of alcohols. So, what all conditions we have to maintain in order to obtain ethers starting from alcohols? So, first thing, we have to make use of excess of alcohol. So, alcohol must be taken in excess, and dehydrating agent, concentrated sulfuric acid, is used in lesser quantity. And here we are going for a specific temperature. The specific temperature employed here is 413 Kelvin. And during these conditions, what type of reaction takes place? It is intramolecular dehydration. Under these conditions, intermolecular dehydration takes place. And as a result, the product that we get is ethers. Now, what is so special about this particular reaction? Now, this particular reaction is used in the preparation of only symmetric ethers. And second point, during this reaction, which type of alcohol we use? We use only primary alcohols. Only primary alcohols can be employed. So we shall consider the equation for the reaction. I told you we have to make use of excess of alcohol. I will consider 2 molecules of ethanol and the reaction should be carried out in the presence of concentrated sulfuric acid, and temperature is very specific. There is the intermolecular dehydration. Temperature employed is 413 Kelvin. So the two molecules of alcohol will lose a molecule of water, and we will end up getting a symmetric ether, and name of this symmetric ether is diethyl ether. Now the question is, can't we use secondary alcohol or tertiary alcohol in this particular procedure? Answer is we cannot. What is the reason? When we go for secondary alcohol or tertiary alcohol, under this reaction condition, they undergo intramolecular dehydration, resulting in the formation of alkenes. That is why the R group what we use under alcohol must be a primary alkyl group. We shall study about the mechanism of intermolecular dehydration of alcohols. I repeat, we shall start from the mechanism of intermolecular dehydration of ethanol. I'll start from step 1. In step 1, ethanol undergoes protonation to form protonated alcohol. I can write the mechanism like this. I start from one molecule of ethanol. The reaction is carried out in the presence of an acid. So lone pair of electrons present on oxygen will attack H plus ion. We get protonated ethanol, which I'll represent it like this. So on this oxygen, we have a positive charge. So in step number 1, what we have obtained is protonated ethanol. We will move over to step number 2. In step number 2, it is going to be a nucleophilic attack of the second molecule of ethanol on protonated ethanol. I can write the reaction this way. This is the second molecule of ethanol, which now acts as a nucleophile, and it will attack protonated ethanol. Now, in this structure, though the positive charge is present on oxygen, because oxygen is more electronegative and its electron hunger is further increased, this shared electron pair of carbon-oxygen bond is pulled more towards oxygen. That is why, though the positive charge is present on oxygen, this carbon atom becomes more electron deficient. That is why when the nucleophilic attack takes place, the lone pair of electrons of this oxygen will attack the carbon atom here, and as a result, this shared electron pair is completely shifted on oxygen, and during the process what we get is protonated ether. So we can write the reaction like this. You have CH3, CH2. Now this carbon atom is connected to oxygen, and on this oxygen we have one hydrogen, single bond hydrogen. And you know that on this oxygen now I am left with only one lone pair of electrons, because the second lone pair of electrons is involved in the formation of bond with this carbon atom. And on the other side we have CH2 and CH3. Or in other words, what is obtained here is a protonated diethyl ether. Then I'll move over to step number 3. In step number 3, this protonated ether loses a proton. We call it as deprotonation of protonated diethyl ether. So that step can be represented like this: CH3CH2 So on this oxygen you have a positive charge. Now this hydrogen is connected to a very highly electronegative oxygen. It's because oxygen carries positive charge. What happens? This shared electron pair of oxygen hydrogen bond is completely pulled towards oxygen. So this bond gets shifted on oxygen. As a result, hydrogen goes out in the form of H plus ion. So what should we get then? We have to get diethyl ether, and on this oxygen we should have two lone pairs of electrons now, and hydrogen goes out in the form of H plus. It's because when I show the arrow mark like this, what it means is this hydrogen loses its electron to oxygen. Or oxygen, in addition to its own electron, takes the electron from hydrogen. That's why finally we are going to get diethyl ether and H plus is regenerated. In other words, what type of mechanism is involved here? It is a SN2 mechanism. In this SN2 mechanism, what is the nucleophile that is used? It is the other molecule of alcohol. Which is the substrate? It is a protonated alcohol. So generally this mechanism can be asked for 2 or 3 marks in the board examination. The second method by which one can prepare ether is by Williamson's ether synthesis. What is the advantage of this particular method over the previous method? I told you the previous method involving intermolecular dehydration of alcohol is used only to prepare symmetrical ethers or simple ethers where both R and R dash groups are the same. But here we have Williamson's ether synthesis, using which we can prepare both symmetric and unsymmetrical ethers. First, I'll start from the general equation for the reaction, then we shall consider specific examples. In Williamson's ether synthesis, we start from alkyl halide RX. I'm going to heat it with an alcoholic solution of sodium alkoxide. So this is sodium alkoxide. So we start from alkyl halide, we heat it with an alcoholic solution of sodium alkoxide. Simple. From here Na plus, from here X minus will go, and what we get here is ROR dash. In addition to that, we will get NaX. So the product obtained here is ether. What about the starting substances? Rx is alkyl halide and R-ONA is nothing but sodium alkoxide, and reaction is carried out in alcoholic medium. You know, it is because alkyl halides are insoluble in water. That's why to dissolve it, we are going to consider alcoholic medium. Let us consider specific examples one by one. The first example I'm going to consider is for the preparation of symmetrical ether like diethyl ether. For that, I'll start from ethyl bromide C2H5Br. I'm going to heat it with sodium ethoxide NaOC2H5. It is better to write the names of the starting substances just below that. So a common name, if I go for, the first one is ethyl bromide. Here what we have is sodium ethoxide, salt of ethyl alcohol. It is called sodium ethoxide. Reaction is carried out in alcoholic medium. Of course, we have to heat it. The product that we get here will be diethyl ether, C2H5OC2H5. In addition to that, we get sodium bromide. So, name of the product is diethyl ether. In this example, what is prepared is symmetrical ether. Let's consider two more examples. Both of them are important one. Now we are going to prepare unsymmetrical ethers. What I do, I am going to start from, let us say, methyl iodide, CH3I, methyl iodide, and I'll heat it with sodium phenoxide. So when you say sodium phenoxide, Na plus O minus, and then we have a benzene ring. So this is sodium phenoxide. Reaction is again carried out in alcoholic medium and we need to warm it. The reaction takes place in the same way. This iodide will go with the sodium, gives you sodium iodide. Here we have a phenyl group and here it is an oxygen, then it is CH3. So write down the name of the starting substances. What we have used is methyl iodide. Not necessary, one can even go for methyl bromide or methyl chloride, but the reaction is found to be faster with methyl iodide. And this compound is a salt of phenol called sodium phenoxide. And what is the product obtained? It is methyl phenyl ether. It has a common name. It is called anisole. Methyl phenyl ether is also called anisole. This is an example of unsymmetrical ether because R and R dash groups are different. Let's consider one more example. In this case, instead of using methyl iodide, I go for ethyl bromide. But the other substance is same, sodium phenoxide. Reaction is carried out in alcoholic medium. You just need to heat it. So byproduct is sodium bromide and the major product obtained is ethyl phenyl ether. And ethyl phenyl ether has a common name called phenetol. Ethyl phenyl ether is called phenetol. So here again what we have obtained is mixed ether. We are going to study an important concept It's a selection of reagent in Williamson's ether synthesis. Let us consider the preparation of mixed ether. It is tertiary butyl methyl ether. Structure of tertiary butyl methyl ether is this. We have a methyl group here. This is a tertiary butyl group. Our aim is to prepare this particular ether. Let us just think about the possible starting substances in Williamson's ether synthesis. As we know, in Williamson's ether synthesis, one has to be alkyl halide and another one has to be sodium alkoxide. Let's consider the two possibilities. First, we shall consider alkyl halide corresponding to CH3 group. So, what we consider is methyl bromide. So, alkyl halide is from methyl group and the other one should be sodium alkoxide group. And what is the sodium alkoxide we consider? It is a sodium tertiary butoxide, which I'll represent it this way. This is possibility 1, where the starting substances chosen are sodium tertiary butoxide and another one is methyl bromide. We shall just think about the other possibility wherein the alkyl halide will be corresponding to tertiary butyl group and sodium ethoxide will be sodium methoxide. Or in other words, I can write it like this. I'll consider tertiary butyl bromide and I'll consider sodium methoxide, which I'll represent it as Na plus O minus and CH3. So these are the two possible pathways. And let us find out of the two which one is preferred. Now if I look at the second pathway, we have a tertiary alkyl halide and here what we have is a strong base. So here the base is CH3O minus, methoxide ion. Methoxide ion is a stronger base. Tertiary alkyl halides, you have already studied in the previous chapter, prefer to undergo dehydrohalogenation reaction under basic condition. Tertiary alkyl halides prefer to undergo elimination reaction rather than substitution reaction. You know, Williamson's ether synthesis is an example of nucleophilic substitution reaction. But if I make use of tertiary alkyl halide under the reaction condition, it prefers to undergo elimination reaction. We call it as dehydrohalogenation instead of expected nucleophilic substitution reaction. So what should be the products when you make use of tertiary butyl bromide and sodium ethoxide? I can represent it like this. You know, this is the alpha carbon atom and this has to be beta carbon atom. Dehydrohalogenation reaction. I'll remove halogen from alpha carbon and hydrogen from this beta carbon. As a result, the product that is obtained is an alkene. Here I'll have double bond CH2. The name of this compound, common name, is isobutene. And what is the IUPAC name of this compound? So this is the first carbon atom, second and third. In other words, what we have is the propene, and on the second carbon atom we have methyl side chain. That's why IUPAC name of this compound is 2-methyl prop-1-ene, or simply I say propene. Next, here the bromide group will go with Na plus what we get is NaBr, salt, and whatever CH3O minus is there, that will take up this hydrogen, gives you methanol. So, in Williamson's ether synthesis, if at all you want to take alkyl halide as a tertiary alkyl halide, you have to avoid it, because under the reaction condition, it undergoes dehydrohalogenation reaction, forming alkenes. That is why this particular reaction pathway will not yield tertiary butyl methyl ether. Hence, the preferred reaction pathway is this, where the alkyl halide will be generally a primary alkyl halide and sodium alkoxide will be corresponding to a tertiary alkyl group. And this question is generally asked in the examination: what happens when a tertiary butyl bromide is heated with an alcoholic solution of sodium methoxide? Remember, we get isobutene.